Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to the most anticipated albums of 2024. So 2023 was a good year. I'm glad we just got that all wrapped up. We're moving into 2024 and I think it's looking even better. Lots of killer albums have already been announced. Some we're actually still waiting for to find out if they will even get released in 2024. But that being said, I've got 14 of the most anticipated albums of 2024 to run through with you, and we'll get into that here in just a bit. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel and haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also, leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you're going to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this, with the most anticipated albums of 2024, keeping you guys up to date. All right, so I'm going to start off with 6 albums that have already been announced. We've got release dates. We know they're dropping for sure. So these certainly have a lot of anticipation behind them. Following that, we'll move into some that have yet to get release dates, and then we'll go from there. All right, so kicking things off here, we got alternative punk rockers Green Day and their album Saviors, which is due out on January 19th. So right out of the gate, we don't have to wait too long for this album. 14th studio album, first new music for them in 4 years, and it's the follow-up to their 2020 album, Father of All MF. That one for me got lost a bit in the pandemic. It was also a bit more poppy. It was very, very short record too. This new one has 15 songs on it, 3 of which have been released so far. That's gotten me excited about it. I am really looking forward to this one here. I think it's going to be better than their last album. We'll have to wait and see until it drops. But like I said already, right out of the gate, we've got that one. And on the same date, we have new wave of British heavy metal legends Saxon and Hellfire and Damnation. This is their 24th studio album, and it's the first to feature new guitarist Brian Tatler from Diamond Head. So I'm even more excited about that. I didn't think I could get really that excited for a brand new Saxon album after all these years. But I have to say, when Paul Quinn retired, I was a little concerned. Now we've got Brian Tatler in there, and first single that they've released is amazing. It's a burner, so I'm really excited about the prospect of what the rest of this album can sound like, could be. But basically, when you've got Saxon and you add in Brian Tatler of Diamond Head, to me, you've now got a new wave of British heavy metal supergroup. Not that they weren't super before, but now they really are. Okay, then we've got former Kiss guitarist Ace Frehley, 10,000 Volts, coming out on February 23rd. So like I said, man, right out of the gate, we've got some cool stuff here. This is his 10th studio album and solo album, I should say. If you count the original one that he did with Kiss back in 1978, that's where we get the 10 from here. This one's fascinating because it's got producer Steve Brown from Trickster working with him here. So not only doing production, but co-writing and playing guitar on it. And for those of you that are fans of Steve Brown's, like I am, not only from his Trickster stuff, but Tokyo Motor Fist and some of his other projects, you guys know he's got a real melodic sense. And so what he could bring to this Ace Frehley album, for me, has me highly anticipating what this is. Now, the first song that's out is the title track, 10,000 Volts. And I have to say, that one really didn't do anything for me. I kind of thought it was a little mundane and run-of-the-mill. Not a bad song, just kind of to me would be, an album filler piece, but not the best song off the album. So I'm still anticipating it more based on what I know about the album than what I've heard so far. Either way, to get some new Ace Frehley is certainly right up my alley for this year. All right, then we've got one that I will say I had way higher anticipation for before hearing it, but either way, I know a lot of you guys are still looking for it. Former Motley Crue guitarist Mick Mars and The Other Side of Mars, due out February 23rd. So this is his debut solo album, and it'll be Mick's first time making music outside of Motley Crue. So in over 40 years, we're finally getting something, outside of Motley Crue from him. Featuring 10 tracks on it. 2 singles have been released so far, Loyal to the Lie and Right Side of Wrong. Both songs are very modern in my opinion. The guitar on it doesn't sound anything like Motley Crue. So if you're expecting that bluesy hard rock sound that Mick is known for, like back in the day, it's not there, at least not on these 2 songs yet. Doesn't mean the songs aren't good, but I don't really hear anything in this that makes me think of Mick Mars. If I heard this on the radio, I don't really know what I would think of this sort of stuff. Jacob Bunton is singing, and I know him from Steven Adler's band. They made one album together simply under the name Adler. And I have to say, I really wasn't impressed by his vocals. So on that album or this so far, so it's not like the vocals are jumping out at me. The guitars are, in a down-tuned modern sort of sound that really isn't my cup of tea. So outside of it having the name Mick Mars on it, that's why I said, unfortunately, my anticipation for this has really dropped. But as I said, I know a lot of you guys are really excited for this. A lot of you guys really like the way it sounds. And so you do have this to look forward to, and I think it's going to get a lot of press and publicity at the time of its release. We'll have to wait and see what kind of life, what kind of legs it has, or whether it just falls off. Is it just the name that's drawing attention, or will the music really do anything? All right, then we've got a pretty big one here. We got Iron Maiden frontman Bruce Dickinson, the Mandrake Project, which is due out March 1st. His 7th solo album, this one here being a concept album and will be available in a deluxe edition, which has a graphic novel along with it. It's his first new album in 19 years. Longtime guitarist and producer Roy Z is on board for this one. The album also features a new version of the Iron Maiden song If Eternity Should Fail, but it was originally Bruce Dickinson's solo song that was starting this album, and he gave it to Iron Maiden, and he took a break from making the album. Now he's come back to it. He's redone the song in a new way, some new lyrics, new sound, all that sort of stuff. So it's not just going to be a cover of it, but that song, If Eternity Should Fail, will appear on a solo album because it does help tell part of the story of the concept album. And the first single is out now, so you can check that out. It came out as a 7-inch in terms of physical release, which had a prequel comic to it, and that really got me excited about the album. Reading that, just seeing the cool artwork and package and everything. The song is Afterglow of Ragnarok, by the way. The video was very cool because it too tells the story. So I have to say, this thing has really piqued my interest. Can't say that the song, really blew my mind or anything of that nature either. But again, for me, a lot of times you got to let the sort of anticipation wear away. And then when you get the whole album and you listen to it, a couple times through, you can really settle in with it. And a lot of times that's when I actually find that I'm far more into the album than when I just hear the first song for it. But either way, I'm excited for this. All right. And the last one that we've got here that has a date that I can announce is, of course, Metal God's Judas Priest Invincible Shield, which comes out March 8th. And this one being their 19th studio album, it is produced by Andy Sneap, who, in addition to production, is actually playing guitars on this album. He's been their touring guitarist for a while. It was kind of a weird thing where they were going to go out on the road without him, and then the fans were up in roar over it, and so he was brought back on board to play for the tour, and apparently there was no real ill will. I think they just, the band was thinking, let him continue to produce and do what he's doing, and we'll go out and do this. But it does look like, because of that, it's really kind of cemented Andy Sneap as being the real second guitar player of Judas Priest. Now, Glenn Tipton is still listed as playing on the album despite having Parkinson's disease, and this will really be, I think, his first album since that announcement and everything. So it'll be interesting to see really how much he's involved, and of course we may never really know, but either way, both Andy and Glenn are playing on this, and of course we've got Richie Faulkner on it, and we've got the amazing metal god himself, Rob Halford. So how can you go wrong with a killer metal album like this due out March 8th? All right, now I've got 8 to talk about, and these are yet to be announced, even though the last one that I'll talk about, actually, the vocalist has given a date, but that's just something he has said. It's not anything official yet, so I'm saving that one to the end. But we're kicking things off here with grunge alternative rockers Pearl Jam, their 12th studio album, and first in 4 years since 2020's Gigaton. Now, back in June, guitarist Stone Gossard said that the new album will have more pop influences on it than they've ever done before. And that had me a little bit worried in there. We'll have to wait and see. I know that the person they've got producing this, Andrew Watt, has certainly had his hand in the pop market, although in recent times he has moved on to producing the big album of 2023, The Rolling Stones. So we know he's got his one foot in the classic rock there. And then he's also produced the last two Ozzy Osbourne albums. 2023, he also did Iggy Pop, so he's got one foot there in the punk. And this is what made me feel a little bit better about it. He actually produced Eddie Vedder's solo album, Earthling, from 2022, and then joined the touring band. So he's not just a producer. And if you don't know who Andrew Watt is, he actually goes back a little ways, playing with Glenn Hughes and California Breed. He was the guitar player in that. So I've had a real affinity for him because I liked his guitar playing before he became this big pop producer who's now moving back over to the world that he originally started in. And so at the beginning of December, we had Matt Cameron announce that the album is in fact done, in the can, mixed, mastered, ready to go. So at this point, we're just waiting on a date for it. And as soon as I get it, I'll bring it to you guys. Okay, this next one up has been gestating forever. It is The Cure, Songs of a Lost World, their 14th studio album. First album in 16 years since 413 Dream came out in 2008. This one has been in the works for at least a decade, if not longer. And in March of 2022, frontman Robert Smith had announced that the first of two potential albums, one of them being called Songs of a Lost World, which is why I'm titling that, or this album as that. Don't know that it's going to be that title, but he did announce that that was one of the titles and would be the first one that would get released. Now, we know things change all the time, and that's, been a while back already. So now, in May of 2023, the band launched their first US tour in 7 years. The set list from it for the first night featured 29 songs, but 4 of those were brand new songs said to be from this upcoming album. Alone, and Nothing Is Forever, A Fragile Thing, I Can Never Say Goodbye. So they've performed 4 of what are supposed to be new songs off of this new album in concert. I'm not really sure why we didn't get the album in advance of that. That had always been my hope. And since when the tour happened, I thought they might release it for the holiday season of 2023, but it looks like now we are pushed off till sometime in 2024. But they've so far never even hinted at, announcing or dropping the album. It's just all been talk at this point. So that is one that I really, really hope we get in 2024. We've got former REM frontman Michael Stipe and his debut solo album. First since REM broke up back in 2011. So he hasn't done music at all since that time, other than some singles, which I'll touch on in a minute. But apparently he began recording this at Electric Lady Studios in New York City this past year in 2023. And right now I'm using the phrase last year and past year, and I know we're in the last week here of the year and right at the beginning, so I know it gets a little confusing to you guys, but I already feel we're in 2024, so that's why I refer to it that way. But he did start recording at 2023. The music is described as synth-influenced pop songs, and with REM, everything was kind of a jangly pop, so I'm not too worried about that. Other artists, when they talk about pop songs like Pearl Jam, does worry me a little bit. Now, he's apparently been working with longtime collaborator Andrew Lee Master on this. And so, since leaving REM, he's put out 4 singles. Don't know if any of these are going to appear on it, but he did Your Capricious Soul in 2019. Then he did Drive to the Ocean in 2020. He also put out No Time for Love Like Now in 2020, which featured Big Red Machine backing him up. And then My Youngest Son Came Home Today in 2023, featuring Billy Bragg and appearing on Billy Bragg's album. And as I said, no word if any of these are going to turn up on the album. I would expect those first 2, which were straight up just Michael Stipe's solo songs. But considering 2019 and 2020, and he didn't begin recording the album until 2023, You know, he's the type of person that'll just pass on by that stuff and record all brand new songs. Because REM was always that way. They had so much leftover stuff that they used as B-sides and would later come out on box sets and things that he's not hurting for any material, I'm quite sure. Okay, moving on. We got 70s rock icon Alice Cooper. Now, back in March, he had announced that he was working on 2 new studio albums, the first of which turned out to be this one, Road, and that came out August 25th. So, great, fantastic album that appeared on my 2023 countdown. Recorded, you know, about the road. It was recorded, you know, one takes in the studio with his touring band. So everything themed around the road. Now, the second album, he hasn't really divulged any information on yet. When it's released, it would be his 23rd solo album. And, you know, the material on it, not known what it'll be, who's going to be playing on it, and so forth. But he did mention that he had recorded new material with the original Alice Cooper group from the 70s. So that one they're making it really, really exciting for me and highly anticipated in that regard. I don't know that the entire album would be recorded and it would come out as an Alice Cooper group album because he has released material with them since, you know, in the last so many years, like 3 albums ago. Paranormal from 2017 featured 4 songs. Now, I am talking about the 2-disc edition, 2 songs on the original, 2 songs on the bonus disc. You had Fireball, The Sound of A, and then Genuine American Girl, and You and All Your Friends. So those 4 songs written and recorded with the original Alice Cooper group. So he has done that. And then in 2022, they put out a live album called Live from AstroTurf that was recorded back in 2015 and originally made its way onto vinyl as part of Record Store Day, but got an official release. So there's been some stuff gestating with the original group for a while, and he has said that he's recorded some new material, and he's not entirely sure what he plans to do with it yet, but he did allude to the fact of it potentially would turn up on this second album. Now, a lot of cases, Alice Cooper puts, you know, 2, maybe 3 years or so between albums, so it wouldn't be out of the ordinary to not see it this year. Maybe it would be 2025, but I've got high hopes that if he was working on these 2 albums at the same time and he completed the one that we saw this year, Road, maybe we're getting the other one in 2024. All right, next up, Southern Rockers Molly Hatchet, their 13th studio album and first new album in 14 years since Justice back in 2010. The lineup for this one features Billy Ingram on guitar. He's been with the group since 1987 and is the not namesake, he is the owner of the name. Danny Joe Brown, the original frontman of the group, when he stepped down, left the rights to Bobby Ingram. So that is how they are out on the road with no original members, but they've got all these longtime guitar, members there with them. John Galvin on keyboards has been there since 1983. Both Bobby Ingram and John Galvin go back to the days of the debut and only solo album from Danny Joe Brown, the original frontman from Molly Hatchet. And that, I think, was 1981. So these guys, in my opinion, go back 40 plus years of history with the frontman and the original guy who last standing member at that point of the band. Now, during the tenure that Bobby Ingram has been running the band, he did bring back original guitarist Dave Olbrich in there for quite a period of time until his passing. So despite what some people think with no original members, I think there is a case to be made as far as this group goes for them continuing on. We've got Tim Lindsay on bass, who's been there for 20 years since 2003. Sean Beamer on drums for over 20 years since 2001. Now, the newest guy, Parker Lee, is the vocalist since 2023, just joining up. He's taken over for Jimmy Elkins, who recorded the 2019 live album Battleground. Unfortunately, he suffered a bad bike accident and could no longer continue, and he was taking over for Phil McCormick, who had to step down due to illness and unfortunately passed away in 2019. So first single, called Firing Line, has already been released. We don't know the name of the album. We don't know when the album is coming out, but it is slated for a 2024 release, and I am looking forward to it. Parker Lee sounds great on this song. I love the rest of the guys that are there. I'm super excited for this one. I've been on a big Southern rock kick lately, so this one here couldn't come, or can't come soon enough for me. All right, reason I popped on the ZZ Top shirt today is we got ZZ Top's 16th studio album, their first new music in 12 years since La Futura in 2012. That album was actually meant to be a double album. At any point in time, they could have released the second album, but a good decade on from that, they decided to just shelve it, to abandon it, to not, I don't know how completed it was, but at the time, they opted to release La Futura as a single album, not a double album. They had originally thought they'd come back a few years later and release the second part, and it just never came to be. Now, they could be taking a lot of that material and reworking it for this, I don't know. But this is also going to be the first album since the death of original bassist Dusty Hill, who passed away in 2021, and first to feature new bassist Elwood Francis, who joined up in 2021 just after the passing of Dusty. Now, back in June, Dusty had provided an update on the album where he said he anticipated the release of this album for 2023, and obviously that didn't happen. So you've got the anticipation that it was actually coming, in 2023 hasn't happened. I'm really expecting it for 2024, but, until we see these albums, you can't really, know for sure on any of these things. Billy did say that the album is going to feature both bassists, so Dusty Hill's on there, Elwood Francis is on there. He said there's even a couple songs where they play together. And I don't know what two bassists are going to sound like on a ZZ Top sound, because as a trio, the bass has always been really fat on there, and Dusty's always had a killer sound. So it could be really cool hearing it, and I'm not sure how they would let us know the difference between who is playing and whether they literally play the same thing or one guy plays or, standard running rhythm and the other guy noodles around or something. Either way, could be pretty cool, but not much else is known for that one. Okay, and this next one here is pure speculation as far as 2024. We got Pink Floyd guitarist David Gilmour and his 5th solo album. First new music from him in 9 years since Rattle That Lock in 2015. Because back in June of 2021, Gilmour announced that he was working on a new solo album. And he did say at the time that it would be a few years before it got released. And since it didn't drop in 2023, I'm hoping we're going to get it in 2024. In April of 2022, Pink Floyd reunited and recorded the new song, Hey Hey Rise Up, to bring awareness to the war in Ukraine. And Gilmour at that time did say that's a one-off. Don't expect any touring or any more recording from them. They just wanted to bring awareness to the war and help raise some money. But then again, Pink Floyd's last album, Endless River in 2014, started off or grew out of David Gilmour recording his then solo album, Rattle That Lock, which he later set aside to do the Pink Floyd thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if this material here could simply turn into a Pink Floyd album. I mean, Momentary Lapse of Reason was a solo album that became a Pink Floyd album. Either way, I'll take it whether it's a David Gilmour solo album or a Pink Floyd album. Guess I would hope it would be a Pink Floyd album, but like I said, I'll certainly take it as a David Gilmour solo album. All right, and this last one here, the 14th one we're talking about, as I said, the singer has given it a release date of April 3rd. I'm talking about Sabotage and Curtain Call. Their 12th studio album, first new album from them in 23 years since Poets and Madmen back in 2001. Back in April, founding member and frontman John Oliva confirmed that the band was working on a new album. At that point, that's when he said it was potentially called Curtain Call because he sees it as being their final album. The band for this one will include John Oliva, Zach Stevens on vocals as well, Chris Cafferty on guitar, Al Pitrelli on guitar, Johnny Lee Middleton on bass, and Jeff Plate on drums. They're also going to have special guest drummer on there, Steve Walshalt on there, so that will be cool. I don't remember if he is their original drummer or he just goes back way into the early years, but when I was growing up with them, he was their drummer, so to get him in there, that should be pretty cool. At the time, John was saying he didn't want to rush the album, and I think he was just talking about the fact that when this was originally announced earlier in 2023, that why was it not going to come out until, say, a year later, April 3rd? He says he wants to do that and release it on Chris Oliva's birthday. Now, I haven't really actually looked ahead. I probably should have checked for you guys to find out whether April 3rd is actually a Friday or not, because that is release day. But either way, that will be potentially the release date, and I would think he would want to stick to that because it has that sentimental value for him. So looks like we're supposed to get a brand new Sabotage album this year. I've been waiting more than 20 years for this thing, so I am beyond over the moon with anticipation for this one. But there you go. 14 of the most anticipated albums for 2024. I'm sure you guys have your own that you're really looking for. Let me know, what is your most anticipated album for 2024. We'll have a discussion about those in the comments section. I certainly hope to find out about some I'm not even aware of, which could be pretty cool. I did just recently announce that Jeff Downs, keyboardist for Yes, has said they are working on a new one for 2024, but beyond that, I don't have any new info, so I am anticipating it. But then they've been dropping new albums. They had one in 2023 and one the year before, so not really too much anticipation there since we are kind of regularly getting stuff from them. But these other bands and artists that haven't put stuff out in a super long time, for me at least, makes the anticipation really high. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.